On the eastern side of the Peruvian section of the Andes, a small stream begins its long journey down to the sea, fed by melting snow and ice. After leaving the peaks at an altitude of over 5,000 meters, it becomes a river and moves inland into one of the most fascinating landscapes on the planet. The richest and most highly complex ecosystem on Earth develops along the banks of the river, the tropical rainforest. The diversity of its flora is 15 times greater than that of any temperate forest in the world, and it may contain over 4 million life forms which have yet to be discovered. Rivers and streams are everywhere in a land where rainfall is a constant feature and may reach, in some places, levels of up to 11,000 millimeters a year. All of these come out in one single channel, a river that takes a fifth of the world's fresh water down to the sea through impenetrable jungle. Francisco de Orellana and 50 of his men traveled down the main river to its estuary for the first time in 1542. On their way, they fought battles and skirmishes with many indigenous peoples over provisions. One of these tribes stood out from the rest, a legendary tribe feared by other Indians of the region, a tribe led by female warriors. The explorers called them Amazons because of their similarity with the legendary women of ancient Greek tales. From that moment, the river, which had up until then been called the River Marañón, became known as the River Amazon. The Amazon basin extends over an area of over 7 million square kilometers, which is 25% of the total surface area of South America. It is an immense plain, almost uninterrupted by hills, and almost totally covered by different types of tropical forest. The jungle is so dense that in some regions it covers the rivers completely. Inside, less than 5% of the sunlight manages to pierce the dense layer of vegetation and reach the ground. This vegetation plays an important role in local ecology. Its thick mesh prevents the continual rainstorms from eroding the soil. Also, the plants send back to the atmosphere more than half the water that falls as rain in these jungles by means of the transpiration stream. The water that is not used by plants becomes part of the rivers. The basin is so huge that in spite of the protective action of the vegetation, 1,000 million tons of sediment are deposited in the sea every year, and its daily water flow is equivalent to that of the River Thames in a whole year. At its widest point, there is a distance of 50 kilometers between the banks. The water does not stay at the same level all year round. Seasonal rains in different parts of the basin alter the water level, and the sea tides affect the later stages of the river every day. When the water level rises, the flatness of the land and the lack of raised areas leads to numerous floods. When the waters subside, they leave lagoons and ponds behind them which gradually disappear. The fish that have not been able to return to the river are left stranded on the forest floor. It does not take long for the herons to discover them, and they fly down to enjoy this present from the river. The trees on the riverbanks are covered by thousands of birds of different species. There are abundant supplies of both food and water, and there are only minor differences between the different seasons. The average temperature is around 25 degrees centigrade throughout the year, and there is no real dry season. In these conditions, there is no need for the birds to immigrate, and many stay here permanently. Visitors from the neighboring Orinoco Basin arrive attracted by the abundance of food. When living conditions in the llanos of Venezuela become difficult, the wood ibises fly over the mountains of Guyana and into Amazon lands. They stay here until breeding time, when they fly back to the rivers where they were born to raise their young. But not only the birds enjoy the abundance of fish. Nearby, a raccoon prepares to search for its food for the day. After catching the fish, it bites its head to kill it, and it eats it in the stream. Even if it had captured it on the bank, it would still put it in the water before eating it. This is a strange custom in raccoons, which still remains a mystery. Decomposing animal and plant remains pile up on the jungle floor. As the organic material breaks down, it releases nutrients which are quickly absorbed by the network of roots that fill the topsoil strata. A great diversity of fauna inhabit the mass of leaves. Insects, worms, and arthropods actively work together to break down the plant matter. They, in turn, make up a part of the diet of the reptiles and small mammals that inhabit this layer. At ground level, there is no shortage of food, and the coati uses its fine sense of smell to find it under the blanket of leaves. In turn, this small mammal falls prey to the greatest predators of the Amazon, the felines. One of these, an ocelot, is roaming the forest in search of food. Up above, a capuchin monkey has noticed its presence. Like the rest of the apes of the New World, it lives almost permanently in the safety of the trees, far out of reach of any predator. It hardly ever goes down to the ground, and when it does, it stays for as short a time as possible. In spite of this, the ocelot is a good climber, so the capuchin keeps a close eye on its movements. Once its prey is aware of its presence, the ocelot has no chance. Its hunting strategy is based on surprise. Without the element of surprise, it's almost impossible to combat the agility with which its prey moves through the trees. In the end, it decides to go, to the relief of the little monkey. The highest level of the forest is a place which is safe from most land-based predators. The density of the vegetation allows free movement from one tree to another, and the abundance of leaves and fruit guarantees a permanent food supply. Plants have also benefited from this. The animals that eat their fruits carry their seeds inside them, and these are later excreted. In this way, they manage to disperse their seeds. In temperate forests, this job is carried out by the wind, but there is no wind inside the dense Amazon jungle. Many tropical species have evolved over time towards a life in the treetops. Insects, amphibians, reptiles and mammals have colonized a stratum of the forest that seemed to be reserved for birds. These develop brightly colored plumage which would be unthinkable in other ecosystems. In temperate forests, these macaws would be easy prey for airborne predators. However, the tropical forest protects them with its densely interwoven branches and leaves that make it difficult for the birds to locate their prey. While the macaws fly below the treetop canopy, they can feel quite safe. The vegetation has also undergone a series of adaptations. The struggle for light is the main priority here. The sun's rays hardly reach the lower strata, so the trees have to develop enormous trunks in order to grow to the necessary height. Some plants, however, have found a different solution to this problem, namely settling on the high branches of the trees. These are called epiphytes. Species that live like this do not need large trunks. They are born and grow in the treetops. At a height of more than 40 meters above ground level, evolution has created a complex specialized ecosystem, a jungle within the jungle. In this space, animals and plants live and die quite cut off from the world going on below them. And 40 meters below this paradise lives man. When Orellana's group traveled the Amazon, there were between 7 and 10 million Indians in the tropical forests of America. There were many different tribes, but they had certain common features. They had some rudimentary agricultural knowledge and fished, hunted and gathered food. Contact with the white man brought terrible consequences. They were decimated by new diseases brought over by the Europeans, and those that survived were captured and enslaved. By the 18th century, all the tribes that inhabited the riverbanks had disappeared, and the total number of Amazon Indians had fallen by 90%. The inland tribes are still fighting to conserve their lands and their traditional way of life. Their villages are scattered about the Amazon basin. They are made up of a few huts in a small clearing that they have opened in the jungle. The chinchorros, or Indian hammocks, are hung up around the center of each hut. They sleep in them and thus escape from the heat during the hottest part of the day. land soon loses its agricultural richness, so every often the tribes move on. The damage inflicted on the forest by the Indians clearing trees is minimal. The clearings are very small and are soon covered over with vegetation again. Each tribe uses its own methods for hunting and fishing. The Waorani, a tribe from the equatorial region of the Amazon, are specialists in hunting with blowpipes. Preparing the darts is a tedious process, but it is just as important as being a good shot. Once the dart is prepared, it is impregnated with a powerful poison, curare. Lastly, a cotton-like material is added to the dart to cover the inside of the blowpipe so that the dart can be propelled. After stocking up with sufficient projectiles, the hunt begins and the group enter the jungle with their long blowpipes. Their prey lives in the treetops and is the most exquisite delicacy to be found in the jungle, the monkey. Once the prey has been located, each hunter prepares his blowpipe and shoots at his target with amazing accuracy. The poison does not have an immediate effect, so the group must follow their prey through the jungle until it literally falls into their hands. Today has been a great day for hunting, and the men return to their village full of pride. As in the case in other tribes, the meat is shared out between all the members of the community, irrespective of whether or not they have participated in the hunt. It's the woman's job to prepare this succulent banquet on the fire inside the hut. The villages are normally situated near watercourses, so they do not normally have to go far to fish or to find water to drink. There are also different fishing techniques. Some of the most sophisticated have been developed by the Yanomami Indians. While one member of the group brains a palm leaf to catch the fish, the others crush other previously selected leaves. These leaves contain a drug that sends the fish to sleep temporarily. After crushing the leaves, they put them into a quiet part of the river and wait. The drugged fish are unable to react and can be caught easily. Everyone takes part in the fishing, even the little children. The drug has a temporary effect and does not harm the river in any way. Soon the fish recover their capacity to react and the fishing comes to an end. The basket is closed and the group return to the village. A lot has changed since Orellana sailed down the river in his brigantines. On the banks, the old native huts have given way to more solid constructions, and the traditional canoes have been replaced by motorboats. Inland from the river, a permanent noise denotes the presence of the infamous garimpeiros, or gold diggers. The garimpeiros come from the lowest levels of Brazilian society and reach these lands after being fooled by the mirage of wealth. Their dreams never come true. To extract the gold in the river requires too much effort, and the few profits to be made stay in the hands of the intermediaries, the same people that rent them the machinery and supply them with food at inflated prices. Meanwhile, the mercury which is necessary to separate the gold pollutes the rivers and poisons the fish. Mercury is not the only threat to this paradise. The forests are still being cut down to obtain wood, create farmlands or grazing land for livestock. There is oil beneath the Guarani lands, and the Yanomami Indians have suffered continuous attacks from garimpeiros illegally extracting gold from their forests. The first Spaniards to ply the waters of the Great River had left Quito in search of El Dorado. Today, more than 400 years later, men are still looking for gold and wealth in these lands. They do not seem to realize that the great treasure, the real El Dorado of the Amazon, lies in its biological diversity, its value as a genetic reserve for the planet, and its power to make the oxygen which sustains life. Oxygen which is also needed by the human species.